Okay, so I was trying to get time to do the under-23s, but I was also too busy going to the V-League match to watch Saigon FC versus Da Nang. Who plays league matches at the same time as National Cup matches? Now, not that I'm blaming anyone at the V-League, because I don't really necessarily think that's their fault, and obviously I understand at the same time that we have all these games coming thick and fast, and the backlog, and then the breaks, and COVID issues and stuff, so don't get me wrong, I'm not blaming anyone. It's just difficult when you're trying to put all these different videos together while supporting your Vietnamese team and the V-League, and also wanting to watch the Vietnamese national team, the women's team, and the guys in the under-23s. But hey, who's complaining? So let's quickly talk about the U23 coming up next. I'm late, I should have done the video.
I'm late, for a very important date. No time to say hello, goodbye, I'm late. It must be awfully important.
For those that don't know, the U23 Championship is a competition for the under-23s of all the ASEAN members. That also includes Australia, by the way. So now the reason that I mention that is because many of the teams couldn't take part. Teams dropped out. Indonesia dropped out because of COVID. Myanmar dropped out because of COVID. You had 3 groups where there was a different amount of teams, and Australia didn't even bother to go. Now, again, I'm not particularly getting at anyone from the Australian Federation. I'm just saying that if Australia used to play in the OFC, from the Oceania Football Confederation, they moved from the Oceania Football Confederation to the AFC, to have a higher level of competition. I get that, that makes sense, but surely your youth teams would then want to have the opportunity to play the best that Thailand has, the best that Vietnam has, Indonesia, and so on. And of course, when you think about it, the way that Vietnam played in the World Cup against Australia, it's not that the gap is that much bigger anymore. So the youth players from Australia would surely benefit playing the Vietnamese team and the Thai team and the Indonesians and so on, right? But hey, what would I know? So back to this year's AFF Championship under-23s. Now, looking at this, first of all, what an amazing job that Cambodia did. We have to talk about the amazing job that Cambodia did. The tournament was played across 2 stadiums, the Morodok Techno Stadium and also the Prince's Stadium. Prince Stadium being the stadium for Visaka in the Cambodian League, which is a stadium I've personally been to myself. It's a fantastic stadium, brilliant, and it just shows the level of Cambodian football and how they're quickly getting their facilities together, just as much as the development of their squad, their coaching staff, and the level of football across Cambodia. So the first thing I want to say is, wow, look at that. The National Stadium, 60,000 all-seater stadium, and the Prince Stadium, 10,000 seater stadium. As I said, there was 3 groups, Group A, Group B, and Group C. Quite simple, right? Well, not so much. In Group A, you had Timor-Leste, Cambodia, the hosts, the Philippines, and Brunei. In Group B, you have Laos, Malaysia, Myanmar, and Indonesia. Myanmar and Indonesia unfortunately dropped out. And in Group C, you have Vietnam, Thailand, and Singapore. So do we see the problem already, right? So in Group A, Timor-Leste played the Philippines in a 2-2 draw. That's a great score for the Philippines, but it's also an even better score for Timor-Leste. Or Timor-Leste, I'm still not sure which way it is. Put it down in the comments and let me know, because I'm just going to go back and forward between the two. Now, the Philippines, if you remember in the Suzuki Cup, did really, really well, so I was kind of hoping for a good performance from the Philippines, but also, as a Scottish person, I love the underdog story. So Timor-Leste, I'm wanting to see them do well. Cambodia, the hosts, then beat Brunei 6-0. Now, you all know I have a soft spot for Cambodia, so a 6-0 win against Brunei, wow, what a start for the hosts. Brunei, after that, then got beat 3-1 off of Timor-Leste. And, okay, so Timor-Leste begin to start getting their steam together. Look like they're going to do something, right? Right? Philippines in the other match lost 1-0 to Cambodia. The hosts are now looking quite successful. The Philippines looked like they could have been in there, but bang, in come Cambodia, and Cambodia beat the Philippines. This is looking really quite interesting now. Cambodia versus Timor-Leste. That's going to be the battle for who's the top of the group, and wouldn't you know it, Timor-Leste come away with a 1-0 win, beating Cambodia, beating the hosts on home soil, and wow, congratulations to Timor-Leste. They have to be given the respect they deserve for that performance. In the other group stage, Philippines beat Brunei 2-1, but of course the Philippines and Brunei both go out in the group that has 4 teams. Timor-Leste and Cambodia going through, with Timor-Leste being top of the group. So to Group B, where we had Laos and Malaysia. That's a little bit easier to explain since there was no Myanmar and there was no Indonesia. So Laos beat Malaysia 2-1, and they thought, hey, why not? We'll play each other twice. And Malaysia 0, Laos 2. So 2-1 to Laos and 2-0 to Laos. Malaysia, what is happening? And then on to Group C. Group C, where you had Vietnam, Thailand and Singapore. Vietnam and Thailand being in the same groups together, you know there's going to be fireworks, and this did not disappoint once again. Thailand versus Singapore in the first match, Thailand won 3-1. Kind of really hoped that Singapore would do something, especially again after the performance in the Suzuki Cup when it recently hosted in Singapore. But yeah, Thailand shown their class. Now, also I'm going to hear from the Thai people saying that it wasn't even their under-23s and many of their players were out because of COVID and other injury problems, and that's pretty much the same for many of the teams, so it doesn't necessarily mean that that's an excuse that Thailand can use. But you know what? Credit to Thailand for playing their under-19s. Credit to them. That shows forward thinking. It shows a development pathway. It shows that they're building for the future. And I think that's a very positive step that Thailand took. So kudos to them there. And they still managed to win 3-1 against Singapore. So that's a great start for Thailand. The next game, Singapore versus Vietnam. The question is, what Singapore team's going to turn up? And what Vietnam team's going to turn up? Singapore 0, Vietnam 7.
Damn!
Yes, that's right, 7. Wow. In a goal fest for Vietnam, again heavily criticised by some people over in Thailand. But hey, Vietnam came out. They had a job to do. They set up their stall early, 7 goals. They got points on the board and arguably did something that the first team couldn't do in the Suzuki Cup. So can't criticise Vietnam for that either. And I'm not going to criticise Vietnam, am I? Which led to the last match, Vietnam versus Thailand. Such a tasty match. And again, as I said, Vietnam bang 1-0 in the Princess Stadium. On to the semi-finals, Laos versus Thailand. What an interesting match for Laos, and credit to them for getting that far. And could they cause an upset? I'm afraid not. Thailand 2, Laos nothing. So a little bit of a disappointment there for Laos, but credit again has to be given to them and their coaching staff for them getting that far as well. And again, that bodes well for the future, so well done to Laos for getting that far. Thailand then marched through to the final. Who are they going to get? Timor-Leste versus Vietnam in the other semi-final. Surely Vietnam are going to sweep them aside, but this is Southeast Asian football. This is why we love ASEAN football. It didn't pan out the way that you thought it would. Ended up going to penalty kicks. That's right. After a 0-0 draw, this went on to penalty kicks. Vietnam did win those penalty kicks 5-3, so congratulations to Vietnam for going through and commiserations to Timor-Leste for going out. But what an amazing performance they put in, and the people of Timor-Leste can be hugely proud of their boys. So this takes us to the final. The final in the Murdoch Tech Stadium. So this is the game that was getting played while I'm watching a V-League match, and realistically I wanted to watch both matches but simply couldn't. What are you going to do? Vietnam came out victorious 1-0. That's right, let me say that again. Vietnam came out victorious 1-0. Now, the reason why this is extra special, it's not just because of the good performance of the men's first national team, or the fact that the women's national team have qualified for the World Cup for the first time. Again, this is another wonderful thing for Vietnamese football, as the U23s won the championship for the first time in their history. Yep, that's right, first time in their history. In the past, Vietnam had only ever came third. That was in 2019, whereas Thailand had been the champions in 2005, runners-up in 2019, and now runners-up in 2022. Anything other than that is Singapore in 2005, where they got runners-up. So Vietnam, for the first time ever, being champions. Body. Tran Bao Tong became hero with a dangerous header to score the only goal to bring victory to the under-23 Vietnamese team. And who doesn't love a little bit of a pitch invasion at the end? Look at that Vietnamese team celebrating. What an amazing experience for them, and hopefully one that these young Vietnamese players can take into their debuts for the national team. Of course, what also has to be remembered, quite notably, is that Vietnam did not concede a goal in the entire tournament. So let's take that into account also. A hugely proud moment for the coach, Dinh Tien Nham. So great stuff for him as well, and brilliant for the under-23s moving forward. Of course, unfortunately, there wasn't any playoff. I would like to think that Timor-Leste would have got something for all their efforts, but you know, Laos also, they deserve something, so credit to all of them. And like I said at the beginning as well, you have to give credit to Cambodia for setting up such a fantastic championship. Brilliantly run occasion, brilliant tournament. So congratulations and credit to them also. So once again, that's it from me. I hope you enjoyed the very quick rundown, and again, I'm really sorry about how late it was. But hey, better late than never, right? Remember to like and subscribe, hit the bell notification so you always get updates, share the video with your friends, and hope to see you commenting down below if I got any of it wrong, or if you have a different opinion on any of the matches. Maybe you thought some teams were lucky, I don't know. HarcusCGTV, and we're done for another video.